This is speed. This is winning. This is losing. This is smoke and fire. This is high stakes and wild cards. This is family and tradition. This is everything on the line. This is it. This is NASCAR in Las Vegas. The South Point 400, a NASCAR playoff race, October 10th through 12th. Get your tickets now. LVMS.com.
Sports by the book.
Sports by the book.
Sports by the book.
Sports by the book, South Point Studio.
We don't make stuff up here.
I would only play the Pirates team total going under.
What the hell happened to Minnesota's pitching?
This total has really crashed without plumbing the lineup.
I think this number's too high, but they're laying me the 6.
Oh, I know.
Caitlin Clark drives handle on the WNBA.
Never mind all these Mickey Mouse other stations. We are giving you hands-on information.
It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles and Alex White.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome in. It is another edition of Sports by the Book here at the South Point Studio. I'm Jeff Parles. She's Alex White. Alex, we wrap up a week of football, and we have Top Tier Tuesday. We have Totally Tuesday as well. We love alliteration here at the studio, and get our college football power rankings, and we'll update you on all the lines for Week 3 in the National Football League here at the South Point.
Looking forward to that now that the doubleheaders from Monday night are complete. 2 unders. Went 1-1 there with the Dogs, but wow, we got to talk about that Chargers and Raiders, and
Sure.
That Chargers defense. They looked like the real deal. They really showed up there and confused Geno Smith, to say the least.
Well, I'll tell you this. I was going through my power rankings last night after the late game, and both winners are now in the top 10 for me. It's just a matter of how far up do we put those winners, and we'll have our NFL power rankings on the show tomorrow, so everyone will be able to find out then. But let's start in Houston first, because that was a funky game, wasn't it? The first half, it felt like, at least early, no one could get stops. The defenses had no idea what they were doing, and then the game just stopped, basically, for a quarter and a half. Tampa was up 14-10.
Yep.
Looked like you were going to steamroll to your overs at 42.5 over, and there were only 15 points in the second half, and 12 of them come in the final two minutes of the game. A dramatic run by Nick Chubb, who, by the way, looks healthy again for Houston, to put the Texans up 19-14 with a little bit under 2 minutes to go. And then Baker Mayfield. I'm going to take a line from our friend Vinny Magliulo, the Warrior himself. Just that run on 4th and 10 to extend the drive and extend the game. Not many guys are going to be able to do that. And they lead a touchdown drive, kept up by Rachaad White with 6 seconds to go. And the Bucs steal one on the road, 20-19. But some big news just came down on the Tampa end, that Calais and Kancey, their star defensive lineman who goes right next to Vita Vea, has a torn pec, and his season is over. But boy, Tampa gets off to a 2-0 start, and the Texans are 0-2 with a huge divisional matchup coming next week in Jacksonville.
I'd say, yes, steal one on the road, but the big story there was the run game, and Nick Chubb had that big run, but they could not get it going the entire game. On the other side, I like what I saw from Tampa, getting Bucky Irving and Rachaad White going, where they really struggled the week before. It looked like they weren't going to use Bucky Irving like we saw Liam Cohen do last year. So that's 2 in a row for Tampa. So I don't want to move them too high, right? Where you can't win all. Well, we saw the Chiefs do it last year, but these last second 4-quarter wins make me a little bit nervous moving forward for Tampa Bay. But I do think they'll get into their stride. Houston, brutal. You mentioned it yesterday, 0-2 now, and they have somebody in their division, 2-0 in the Colts. So might be a little bit tough start for them to try and get that division, even make the playoffs here.
Well, they were fortunate. Jacksonville lost 2 on Sunday.
Yes,
it could have been
were.
a pair of 2-0s in their division. Again, a historically weak division. And Indy went 2-0 outside of the division. They haven't even played anyone in the AFC South. So, again, we'll learn a little bit more about it in the Colts. Going on the road for the first time against, again, it's 0-2 Tennessee, a little desperation, divisional game. Texans get the Jaguars. We'll tell you where that line is in a few moments. And when we go through all the lines that are now up for week 2 here at the South Point. But, yeah, look, Texans, in the Stroud-Ryans era entering this season, the Texans were 14-8 in one-score games. They're now 0-2 in one-score games. As we talked about, obviously, with Kansas City, that worm usually turns when you're grading one-score games to the other way and vice versa. Worm starting to turn a little bit for Houston. And, boy, with a schedule that, even with the division being as weak as it is, not the greatest of schedules, even though, again, they played 2 playoff teams the last 2 weeks. They lost by 5 to the Rams in L.A., and they lost by 1 last night to Tampa. So can't feel too badly about yourselves. Also, from tiebreaker purposes, it's better to lose NFC games than AFC games because all those tiebreakers come down to divisional record and conference record. If you're going to blow 2 games early, it's better to blow them out of conference as opposed to in division. Got to handle your business the next 2 weeks when they go to Jacksonville and host Tennessee in week 4.
So you were talking about kind of that, regression to the mean with winning those one-score games. We talked about the Chargers, their defense regressing this year, right? Being the best in the league in points allowed, but the yards not really matching up. What's your thoughts now? You were at that game and saw it live.
Yeah, so 20-9 Chargers win. Raiders had their opportunities to get in the back door, but that was as bad of a Geno game as we've seen in a long while. Bad decisions amok. 3 picks, 24-43, under 200 yards. It was a brutal Geno Smith performance last night, and I got to give the Chargers defense their due. Now, last week against the Chiefs, I didn't think they were particularly great. I thought they were good enough. They were able to stand up when they needed to, and Herbert was just dominant in week 1 in Brazil. Herbert was good last night. I don't want to say he was dominant, but he played really well. The Chargers were actually pretty darn good with the football until the game was already out of hand with that bizarre decision on the 4th and 1, and then the fumble at the end. Raiders couldn't take advantage of it because of how poorly Geno Smith played last night. But Jesse Minter, who came over with Harbaugh when he came back to the NFL as a defensive coordinator, Jesse Minter is going to be a head coach in this league, and it's probably going to come this offseason. He has taken a Charger defense that, look, the Brandon Staley era was a disaster. As much promise as Staley had early, he was a disaster. It was 2.5 years. They had top 10 talent. They legitimately missed the playoffs in 2. They were one of the worst teams in the NFL the year Herbert got hurt. They will have the second biggest NFL playoff collapse in a game ever. And obviously that infamous game against the Raiders week 18 a few years ago where they had, to me, one of the 5 best teams in the NFL missed the playoffs altogether. The Chargers are just so well coached on both sides of the ball. Harbaugh and Roman, and I know people like getting on Greg Roman through the years, conservative, whatever it want. They're complete opposite now. They're a pass-first team because they obviously don't trust their run blocking. I'm going to vault the Chargers higher than I vault Tampa in my power rankings. It's just a matter of do I vault them into the top 5 or not after what was another dominant performance. And Alex, Chargers have the Broncos up this week.
Yes.
That is 3 straight divisional games to begin the year for LA. And they're favored against the Broncos. We'll get the exact line in a few moments. You have a chance to go 3-0 to division to begin the year. There's no one in the NFL with a better start than that if the Chargers beat the Broncos in week 3.
I think he worded it perfect right there, that they are just such a well-coached team on both sides of the ball in all 3 facets. And it really showed up in these first 2 games against their division opponents. So this is a very interesting one. And, man, the Broncos with that loss late because of that penalty, and now they're kind of desperation trying to get a win here over the 2-0 Chargers.
We're going to go through all the lines in a second. Just one last note I want to bring up because last night, both games, after a great week for overs, both games go under last night. Tampa wins as a small underdog, and the Chargers, of course, cover all numbers. Didn't matter what it was. Even though that number is really stagnant at 3.5 all week, though.
And I do just have to bring up, we really need to listen to Chris Andrews more.
Yeah, he's usually pretty good, right?
Yeah. On Friday, he said, you should take the 2.5s, lay the 3.5s, and that's what we had yesterday, and both of them worked out.
Yeah, the 2.5-point dog wins outright. The 3.5-point favored really was, again, Raiders had their opportunities to get in the back door, but never really threatened. Yeah. Even if the Raiders had scored a touchdown on the one where Geno threw a pick in the end zone, still would have had to have gotten a 2 in order to get in the back door. But the last game, the late game was a rocking chair under if you had it last night with the Chargers and the Raiders.
Which we did say because neither defense looked great in game 1, but their offenses both did. And we knew that both of them would probably resort back to running the football first and foremost, and it's how those two play tough against each other. Even though, I mean, to start, like you said, Chargers still were using that passing attack.
Yeah, Chargers, again, Justin Herbert had the most carries on the team last night. Justin Herbert had the most rushing yards on the team last night. I was going through it earlier. For their first 16 plays, they had 14 called passes. Now, I know Herbert scrambled on a few of them, but this is a whole new ball game for Harbaugh teams. They've always been smash mouth run first. I think he knows that his line can't really run block, and he trusts his quarterback. And right now, again, it's week 2. Outside of the usual suspects of Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, with Joe Burrow on the shelf basically the rest of the year, and the Chiefs at 0-2. Justin Herbert slides into that number 3 slot for me. We'll give you those updated odds in a few moments. But again, it's way too early to say who's in the MVP race through 3 weeks. But Allen, Lamar, Herbert, those are my top 3, at least entering week 3.
It's so funny because last year the whole storyline was that Justin Herbert didn't have enough weapons. And now when you watch them, you're like, he has so many great weapons out there, right? And as long as Johnston can make those type of catches.
Well, that's the biggest thing. QJ looks like a totally different player. And you know what? Keenan Allen amazingly can still play. He looked totally done last year and the year before, but Keenan Allen can still play. I mean, McConkey's barely been targeted this year. It's been Keenan Allen and QJ. Those opposing defenses are taking on McConkey. And Herbert's like, you know what? I'll just beat you with QJ and Allen. Both guys scoring touchdowns, including the long one for QJ at the beginning of the third quarter for the Chargers a night ago.
One more point for your MVP there is we know Justin Herbert, it was a terrible playoff game against the Texans, but in the regular season, just 4 interceptions throughout the whole year last year. So that will definitely help the case as the race goes on for MVP.
He got away with one last night. There was one a Raider linebacker had legitimately should have been a pick 6 and was dropped instead in that third quarter. All right, let's go to updating everything as we enter week 3. Amazingly, we're already 2 weeks down here in the NFL. And Alex, let's begin on Thursday night. The Buffalo Bills are gigantic favorites against the Miami Dolphins. We're currently sitting at 12 as we've gone up, or actually make it 11.5 now here with Buffalo with a total of 49.5 for this one. Bills, of course, big favorites, not a shock. Dolphins 0-2, looking as bad as anyone in the league through 2 weeks. Yeah,
it looked like their offense finally started to get going a little bit, but this could be really ugly for Miami, and that scares me for Mike McDaniel's job there. But next one up on the board, and Chris brought this one up. So the Colts were home dogs, and now they are road favorites against the Titans here, laying 3.5 on the road, total 43.5.
I want to see how high this number gets, and then I'm going to come in on Tennessee. I don't think we're done yet. We've already moved from 3 to 3.5. I don't think we're done moving. Again, bettors have seen how bad Tennessee has been through 2 weeks. I know Cam Ward was a little bit better in week 2, but they did nothing in the second half against the Rams. So we're not done moving, at least in my opinion. I'm at least waiting for a 4. Maybe we'll even get to 4.5. I don't think we'll get higher than that, but big difference, nice little difference between 3.5 and 4 still. Would look to take the 4 with Tennessee if we happen to get there. All right, Atlanta and Carolina. Falcons defense dominant on Sunday night in their win against Minnesota. They only scored 1 touchdown, but it was more than enough to beat the Vikings. Of course, we'll give you the update on J.J. McCarthy in a few moments. That broke after the show. But Michael Penix and company, 5-point road favorites against Carolina. Total 44. Panthers only lost by 5, but it was pretty brutal until Arizona's defense went soft in that fourth quarter.
Well, and I don't think the Falcons defense is going to do that. So under. I think 44 is too high. I don't know how the Panthers are going to score in this one. Next up, still question marks with Jaden Daniels. We don't know for this game, but the line has moved. Washington 3.5 over the Raiders, total 44.5.
Yeah, just curious on the Daniels plays. It was 6.5 before the reports yesterday came out that Jaden Daniels is nursing a knee injury. We don't know. There's just up in the air. The only thing we do know is not expected to be long-term. Maybe it's a week, maybe it's 2 weeks, but it's not expected to be long-term for Jaden Daniels. All right, Cleveland, Packers, 2-0, as dominant as anyone through 2 weeks, take on the 0-2 Browns, who, you know what, they stayed in the game for a half against Baltimore, and then they got really out of hand because of turnovers in the second half. Alex currently 7.5 with the Packers and a total of 42.5 the afternoon ball in Cleveland.
Reports say they are sticking with Joe Flacco, even with the struggles against the Ravens. So expect to see him again in that one. How about this one?
Yeah, go ahead.
For week 3, Jake Browning versus Carson Wentz here. Vikings a 3-point favorite, total 42.
I'm a little bit floored at this line, honestly, Alex, because the last few data points for Carson Wentz, except for the game he was coached by Sean McVay, have been really bad data points. Browning, look, he'll turn the ball over, but Browning, look, when he had to play 2 years ago, when Burrow went down with the wrist thumb injury, Browning kept him alive in the playoff chase.
Yes, he did.
And, yeah, he threw 3 interceptions last week, but guess what? Come from behind victory with Jake Browning and 2 touchdowns a week ago. Minnesota's defense obviously significantly better than Jacksonville. That's a hellacious place to be a road team, even though Atlanta walked in there and won last week. I would be leaning hard to Cincinnati here at the current number. I just want to see how this number moves through the week, Alex.
Couldn't you compare Kevin O'Connell to Sean McVay and his ability with quarterbacks?
Yeah.
And is it a huge drop-off with what we've seen from J.J. McCarthy in 8 quarters?
That's the big question, right? McCarthy, other than that fourth quarter in Chicago, has had 7 brutal quarters. That's the valid question here, more so than anything. O'Connell, look, to me, Sean McVay's the best offense. Him and Kyle Shanahan are the 2 best offensive minds in the NFL. But that last question does make you ponder it, like because McCarthy's been pretty brutal, except for that fourth quarter against Chicago.
I haven't taken anything off the Vikings just yet. I will be talking that one over with my dad to see the drop-off there.
Yeah, again, a ton of injuries on defense, but Minnesota's defense still played well a week ago against Atlanta. It was not their fault that they lost that game on Sunday night. All right, let's go to Philadelphia next. To me, this is the game of the weekend on Sunday. We'll get to Monday night at the end. The NFC divisional round rematch. The Rams had the best crack of anyone to beat Philadelphia in the playoffs last year. No one else came close in the other 3 games. Eagles 3.5, total 44.5. Alex, I'm curious your thoughts here on this game. Well,
to your credit, because you've had the Rams rated high finally in my top 10. I'm very late to the party here with Los Angeles, but I am very impressed with them, especially offensively. Still question marks on the defense, but Eagles haven't done much in 2 games. But I think this number is just right. So nothing for me yet, but maybe add a little bit of that revenge into that one. Steelers at New England. Pittsburgh laying 1.5 on the road, total 44.5. Any thoughts about this one?
I have no clue. It's funny. Our guy, Steve Cofield, asked me about this game yesterday. I have no clue. I lean to taking whoever the underdog is, and that's currently New England. But, boy, Aaron Rodgers, that sure looked like it. Just the Jets' defense is clueless more so than anything. The Steeler defense, I have worries about the Steeler defense. 2 weeks have not played particularly well. No. It's not like they played high-end offenses either, the Jets and the Seahawks. New England, how much of that offensive renaissance was Miami? The Dolphins' defense might just stink more so than anything. Up next, let's go to Tampa. Bucks come off the big win last night, short week. They're 2-0. They take on the Jets, who are 0-2. There's a chance we see Tyrod Taylor with Justin Fields in concussion protocol entering the week. Total 44.5 on this one. Alex, I think that total's too low. From what we've seen, the Jet defense isn't stopping any offense with any sort of competency at the current moment.
I'm with you. I definitely have that higher on my sheet from when I made the numbers last night. So, yeah. Might see that number moving up. So if you agree with us, I would jump in now. Texans and Jags, Jacksonville, point favorite now over Houston, total 44.
Tough game. Desperation spot for Houston. That series has been tilted towards the underdogs through the years as well. Very, very hard handicap. Absolutely nothing for me to do at the moment. I would like to see how the market plays it with Houston and Jacksonville. Now this is a really good one. We talked about it in the onset, 2-0 Chargers, 1-1 Broncos. This was so close to being 2-0 versus 2-0. Denver loses because of a leverage penalty that gives Spencer Strider another chance from 45. Bangs it through. Indy's 2-0. Denver's 1-1. Alex, I think this is all pretty fair. Chargers 3 at home in their first home game and a total of 46.5. I see no qualms with anything in this game.
I do not either. This is a very tough handicap as well, and where you want to jump in there. But I think the bookmakers did a great job with that number there. Let's go Saints and Seahawks here. Seattle. Wow, no one really saw this. 7.5 already here in week 3. New look offense for them. Total 41.5. But again, they are playing the New Orleans Saints.
Teaser position down to 1.5 on Seattle. I think that's pretty good. Question in this game is how the hell is New Orleans going to score? I have no idea. Their offense has been reasonable enough at home, but Niner defense is good. I think Seattle's defense at home is better than San Francisco's defense traveling.
Yeah.
And Arizona's defense is solid, but it's a whole different ball game. You're playing outside, playing in a raucous environment. You're playing a top-tier defense that was great both of the first 2 weeks against the Niners and the Steelers. Tough spot for New Orleans, even though that does seem pretty cool to be getting 7.5, but a little bit surprised. Remember, Arizona touched 7 a lot during the summer on the road in New Orleans.
True.
So,
yeah. But that's before, and that's when we thought the Saints were going to be all-time bad.
New Orleans has been, look, they've covered week 1, depended on what number you got in week 2.
Yeah.
Or actually, it's dependent on both numbers, I should say, because some numbers you pushed with New Orleans in week 1, and then last week, if you got in early, you won. You got in late, you did not with the Saints.
Spencer Rattler still trying to get his first win now in the NFL.
It might be a while, Alex. This was supposed to be a big-time matchup, but we got 1-1 against 0-2 in Chicago Bears. Boy, disaster last week in the Ben Johnson return game to Detroit. Chicago won against Dallas with a total of 50. Just a mash unit on defense already for Chicago, which is kind of scary with how the Dallas offense has looked so far this year.
That's true. So this one, but Dallas's defense. So maybe the Bears can get that offense going here, and Ben Johnson can like what he sees from that side. Cardinals at San Francisco. The Niners still 1.5. I have no news about Brock Purdy back yet. I still think a couple more weeks.
Yep.
Total 43.5 here.
Yeah, it's going to be Mac again, barring a surprise. Of course, Kittle's on IR. This is a huge game for Arizona. An opportunity, again, they beat the Niners in San Francisco a year ago. An opportunity to, start 3-0, which, again, Rams are an underdog this week in Philadelphia. The winner of this game very easily could be in first place by themselves entering week 4. Big spot for Arizona.
Yeah.
Curious to see how this line moves because I'm pretty sure I am going to be on the Cardinals in this game, but we'll just see how the line plays out. Sunday Night Football, 0-2 against 0-2. Chris talked about this game yesterday. Home dog for Kansas City a week ago, and now they're laying 6 on the road against the Giants. Giants should have won last week. They absolutely should have won that game at Dallas. Total at 45.5 for this one, Alex.
I feel like that total is a little bit high, and I know we just saw a shootout in the fourth quarter between the Giants and the Cowboys, but what we've seen from the Chiefs, really, the first 2 games, not a lot of offense, but defense is still elite there. So that's the way I'm leaning right now on that one. And then Monday night, what a game here. We've got the Ravens hosting the Lions. The Lions really flipped it. Looked great in game 2. Ravens 5.5 at home, total 51.5. We always mention it. Lamar Jackson, historically very good against the NFC teams.
What a great game this is to wrap up the week. But I'll just throw this out there. I don't want to overreact a ton to the Lions thrashing the Bears because we know how good they are indoors. We know that when they are indoors, they are arguably the best team in the NFL. And now you're going back on the road outside against the Baltimore team. Derrick Henry had 30 yards rushing last week.
Yep.
Think that's going to happen again? Probably not. And again, we're down to 4.5 now in this game from that 5.5. I want to see how low this goes because I'm very happy to lay it with Baltimore. And you mentioned it. Lamar Jackson's only lost twice against the NFC. He's owned the NFC through his NFL career. All right, let's take a look at the futures book here at the South Point. And remember on Friday, Alex, we brought it up with Chris and Vinny on Football Frenzy on a Friday that the Green Bay Packers, and Chris warned us on this last week, or after the Micah Parsons trade, that they were just plied with Green Bay money. And there you go. The Baltimore Ravens and the Bills are both 5-1 to win it all. Not a shock that they're the favorites. The Packers, the big vaulter, up to 7-1. The Eagles at 7-1. And then the Los Angeles Chargers are the other big vaulter here. They're up to 12-1. The Rams were already in that pocket to begin with. Those are your 5 betting favorites in the NFL to win it all. And the Chiefs have more than doubled with this 0-2 start from +7, 7-1 to 15-1 now to win it all here at the South Point.
Very interesting, because before that Chargers game, the Chiefs were not 15-1. I mean, I think I was looking around and could barely find double digits there, but I think that has a lot to do with it there with the Chargers moving up. But if you look at other 0-2 teams, I mean, they're still much higher. I mean, look at the Bears up there. So still don't want to give you too much there with Kansas City.
Yeah, just looking through this, Arizona's 2-0 at 50-1. Cincinnati's 2-0 at 60-1. Obviously, Joe Burrow's out for maybe the whole season, so that makes sense on that adjustment.
Yeah.
I'll just throw this out there. And, Alex, you've been high on this team all year through the summer, and that's Tampa. And you're in a favorable schedule. You started 2-0 with 2 road games, no less. You win at Atlanta. You win at a potential AFC playoff team in Houston. You have a pretty easy schedule. You see here, Ryan McCormick just threw up the NFC odds for us. Tampa's 10-1 to win the NFC. Of course, it goes through Green Bay and Philadelphia still, +350 on the Pack and +375 on the Eagles. You can make a really darn good case that Tampa Bay could get the 1 seed in the NFC. And that gives them a chance. Look, it's going to be really hard for them if they don't have the whole playoffs through Southwest Florida. It would be hard, but there are much worse future bets to be made right now than the Bucks at 10-1 to win the NFC and the Bucks to win the whole thing at 25-1 or bigger. They have a chance. I'm concerned about their defensive injuries, especially the Clancy injury that came down, but they're really good. And Baker Mayfield is a legitimate top 8 quarterback at this point in the league.
Yeah, he is. And he is definitely carrying this team when need be, right? And if you're making bets on a team, you want to be able to trust your quarterback in the fourth quarter. So I'm with you. I like that. I still think that they are undervalued. And now with 2 wins under that belt, that makes that number look even better here. The other thing is with those 2 wins, those are games that, Tampa found ways to lose last year. They really play up to their competition and down to their competition.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I talked about is they can't go on these losing streaks and lose games that they're supposed to win. And they showed a lot these last 2 weeks.
Well, they have the letdown spot of all letdown spots coming up. They're facing the Jets, who are 0-2, were absolutely awful last week against Buffalo, potentially playing their backup quarterback, and Philadelphia is on deck for Tampa.
Ooh.
So, again, I'm a little skittish about how bad the Jets' defense has looked through the first 2 weeks, but hey, to get in 7 could be a possibility. We'll see if that number goes up. On the AFC side of things, Buffalo and again, goes through Buffalo and Baltimore. We no surprise. Bills slightly favored over Baltimore here at the South Point, +250 on the Bills, +260 on Baltimore. The Chargers, again, the big vaulter. They're 6-1. Kansas City at 8-1. Denver at 10-1. Look, I'll be totally honest with you at this point, Alex. I don't think there is a team outside the top 5 that realistically has a chance to come out of the AFC. I understand it's only week 2. I understand that Indianapolis has looked great, but I need to see them on the road. Again, Houston still has the talent, but they're 0-2 and they have an uphill battle. Steelers, I think, are closer to what they were this past week against the Seahawks as opposed to the Jets. I would be very surprised if anyone outside the top 5 in the AFC has much of a chance of getting to the Super Bowl at this point.
Still, I think the Texans 20-1.
Okay.
And I know 0-2 is very scary, and we're talking about the complete opposite with the NFC. But I'm not buying the Colts just yet.
I agree.
So maybe they could find a way to win that division. They somehow usually do.
Yeah.
And then are good for one playoff game at least. So you'd be holding a nice ticket there. But I'm with you. I definitely think there is a gap there with the top 5.
Yeah, and look, I think Denver has their flaws, and boy, I'm stunned how bad their defense was against Indianapolis this past week.
But Bo Nix was much better, right?
That again. The vibe with Denver would be a lot different if they did not commit that penalty on the field goal, because they would be 2-0. They would have won a game where Bo Nix was awful, and they would have won a road game where their defense didn't play well. And it'd be like, whoa, Chargers and Broncos it's already a big game. 2-0 against 2-0, and Denver hasn't put together a full game on both sides of the ball yet, and they're still 2-0. It would have really, again, I didn't move Denver out of my top 10. I'll throw that out there. I still have them in there. I need to see them put together a full 60 on both sides. They haven't done that yet. They did it in the defense against Tennessee. They did it on offense against Indy, even though Nix did throw a really bad interception in the fourth quarter when they had a chance to put the game on ice against Indianapolis. MVP markets here, Alex. I'll look at MVP and two other quick awards markets before we shift over to college ball here. I'm just going to stick with what I said, regardless of what the odds may be. This, again, and you know this, the MVP market changes so much in an NFL season. There are guys who are in the pocket of, I'm just going to throw Dak Prescott's name out there, even though I don't think he's live. There are guys in that Dak Prescott, Kyler Murray, Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff. Boy, that's a good number on Jared Goff at 60-1. That are going to be way shorter in a few weeks. Yeah. And then there's guys like Jordan Love, who's off to a great start, and Jaden Daniels, who's battling injury. Those numbers are going to drop. You're going to get better prices on basically everyone at the top at some one point or another this year, and everyone else in that middle, there's going to be one or two guys who vault. Then these are from DraftKings and FanDuel. If they have a star next to it, it's the FanDuel number. If they don't, it's a DraftKings number. Josh Allen's plus 320. Lamar Jackson, the best number available, him's plus 350. Love and Herbert, plus 850, best numbers available. Daniels at 15-1. Mahomes' best number is 25-1. I think Mahomes has no chance at this point to win the MVP, unless Kansas City has a big-time turnaround. Baker and Hurts at 20-1. Alex, I think the best number by far is Jared Goff at 60-1, because the possibility that week one was just first game with new coordinators playing on the road against arguably the best defense in football. That's why Detroit stunk on offense in week one. But again, they play a lot more road games. All I can tell you is if Detroit wins at Baltimore on Monday night, that's the last time you're seeing 60-1 this year on Jared Goff. That might be a bet here and going into week three and run the risk that Detroit doesn't look good and loses to Baltimore on the road on Monday night.
Amon-Ra St. Brown had a fantastic job. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's kind of foreshadowing, right? We're going to see more of a passing attack where we know they were very run first with Gibbs and Montgomery, even though we did see both of them get into the end zone and it was a good balance there. But yeah, I think that's a great number there. And what was Baker Mayfield before the season started? Because I think it's 40-1.
Yeah, I think it's in the 35-40 pocket.
Yeah, we talked about that one, which is now dropped too. But yeah, 60-1. I think he should be closer to Baker Mayfield.
I think he should be shorter than Dak. It's going to be really hard for Dak Prescott to be in the MVP race just because of what Dallas is going to be. Kyler Murray at 50-1 is interesting if the Cardinals, especially if they win this week in San Francisco, are to 3-0, but again, we kind of know what the pattern is with Arizona. They start well and then they fade. And then Matthew Stafford at 30-1 also. I know he was longer during the offseason because of questions of the back injury. Stafford's back looks fine.
I will just say Dak's going to put up good numbers. I think I say this every time.
Sure.
But now that we actually saw him, CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, all of it kind of working,
it's good.
Put up some really good numbers.
It's a good offense. There's no argument on that, but it is, really hard to even be in the race if your team's going 7-10 or 8-9, which is more likely than what Dallas is going to be. Offensive player of the year, real quick, Alex. I just want to make the chase for I just told you what I'm going to make the case for. I'm going to make the case for Jamar Chase real quick. Down at 15-1. Saquon's, by the way, your betting favorite. I have a hard time seeing Saquon winning the award again, plus 850. Bijan is 9-1. Henry's 10-1. Those are pretty good bets at the moment. But making the case for Chase, Joe Burrow is more likely than not done for the season. We may see him again in December, but if the Bengals, we'll see where the Bengals are at. But the case for Jamar Chase is if the Bengals stay in this race, how's it probably going to happen? It's going to happen that Jamar Chase is going to have a monster year, and he's going to be able to pull Jake Browning up with him. I think that's a good number. Now, this could look really bad if Browning comes out and plays an awful game in Minnesota this week, which is more than possible against that defense. But we're talking about a top 2 wide receiver in the NFL in Chase. By the way, Jefferson's down at 27
I
to
was
1.
just going to say, you're leading right to the other side of the argument,
It's
too.
interesting, but boy, he's going to need to get better quarterback play than he's gotten. But it's the same sort of argument with Chase, right? Like, we don't think the quarterback play with Browning will be great, but if it happens to be good, it's going to be because Jamar Chase has a huge season, Alex.
Yep, and same thing goes for Justin Jefferson. If he can help the Vikings stay in this, too, with Carson Wentz, that's very interesting. But right now, the name jumping out to me is Puka Nacua, 11 to 1, double digits. I would take that right now. I mean,
huge year so
two
far.
games already. You just watch him play, and it's amazing, and even running the football. So
yeah, Nacua so far, the last week 8 for 91 and a 45-yard touchdown run against Tennessee. He is off to a great start. Well, we have defensive player. We can go with defensive player actually right here before we take a break. I can't say I'm surprised that Micah Parsons is the betting favorite, especially with the way Green Bay, and it's not necessarily that Parsons has been dominant. It's that whole defense hasn't been dominant, in part because of him being there.
true.
So I'm not surprised at this. I can't really justify betting anything else at the current moment just because of, Parsons has the high-end play plus the narrative going for him.
Yes.
That is almost an impossible thing to beat in these awards. Obviously, he has to stay healthy, and Green Bay's defense still has to play at a high level. But I don't mind plus 440. I know it's really short at this time of the year, but it's hard to make an argument for anybody else at this point. Nick Bosa would be my number 2 at this rate. He's been unbelievably good through 2 weeks for San Francisco.
Oh, I don't hate that at all, especially looking down the list. I mean, we saw some big-time plays from Crosby yesterday, but that really worries me, and where's this team going to be? And then same thing goes for Myles Garrett and down the list and how many wins they're going to have. So I'm with you. I think those two you mentioned, Parsons or Nick Bosa.
Yeah, I would love to make an argument for Nick Benito. I'd love to make an argument for someone else down the board. I just can't do it. We'll say it's a shame Ed Oliver got hurt after week 1, because if Oliver had stayed healthy, and especially with how good Buffalo's defense was without him against the Jets, that would probably be the guy. But we don't know how long Oliver is going to be out after getting stepped on in practice last week. But he was off to, and on top of it, Collinsworth mentioned him every single time he made a big play on Sunday night. So, again, high-end play and narrative usually really good for an award win.
True.
At this point, and Parsons got both of them at the current moment. All right, we're going to take a quick break. That was a lot of football to kick it off, and we're going to get more football on the other side. Our power ratings, Chris Andrews' power ratings, and we'll give you an update on a very topsy-turvy Heisman Trophy race at the current moment through the first 3 weeks of college football. When we get back, it's Sports by the Book, live from the South Point studio.
If you're celebrating a special occasion or just love fine dining, you're in the right place. Come experience the crown jewel of South Point restaurants, Michael's Gourmet Room.
Welcome.
With over 600 different types of wines and magnificent dishes prepared tableside, you'll revel in the rich classic Vegas decor and the best black tie service in the world. This intimate gourmet room has earned accolades galore. Come to Michael's Gourmet Room for an unforgettable dining experience. Another famous restaurant is the Silverado Steakhouse, where you'll find the charm and service that discerning patrons require. From top quality steaks and chops to fresh seafood and desserts, you'll love the award-winning wine list and menu at Silverado Steakhouse. Steak lovers have even more options with primarily prime rib. Catering to hearty appetites, the menu features a variety of flavorful prime rib cuts, dry-aged to ensure tenderness, and then seasoned and slowly roasted. Although prime rib is our specialty, it's not the only thing on the menu. There's something for everyone.
This is speed. This is winning. This is losing. This is NASCAR in Las Vegas, the South Point 400, a NASCAR playoff race, October 10th through 12th. Get your tickets now.
Welcome back in Sports by the Book, South Point studio. Jeff Parles, Alex White. We now shift gears to the college football portion of the program, and we'll get our power rankings in a few moments from now. But first, let's update you on the national title odds here at the South Point. And, you know, Alex, I will say this. I'm a little bit surprised that Georgia didn't get a little more of a bump after what was a great week for them, winning against Tennessee. And look, they have a brutal schedule. They still have to play Texas. They still have to play Alabama, Ole Miss, Florida. I get it. Their schedule is incredibly difficult. But they have all those games at home except for the cocktail party, which is a neutral site in Jacksonville. And Florida's season could be completely done by then. They also have Georgia Tech the final week of the season, which all of a sudden looks like a gigantic game.
Which was a great game last year. So.
Oh, yeah. Hey, well, Georgia Tech should have beat them between the hedges last year in that double overtime marathon against the Dogs. But the Buckeyes are the betting favorites at plus 450. Penn State and Georgia at 6. Texas at 7. Oregon and LSU at 8. Alabama comes creeping back up the board after 2 good performances in a row at 12-1. Miami at 12-1, and there's Oklahoma and Texas A&M sitting there at 20-1 apiece. Sooners off to a really impressive 3-0 start. Aggies, of course, sprung the upset and got the huge win in South Bend last Saturday.
That looks a lot like my top 10 right there on the left side, so that's makes you feel good. Oregon, though, I have much higher than where they are sitting right there at 8-1, and then the other one is Texas A&M. I feel like that could be a season-turning win there in South Bend. I think that, they could vault their season, right, and just continue to go. They do have Texas at the end of the regular season as well.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know. It's really hard right now. And I just feel like, and Chris said it the other day, I think it's wide open more than ever.
So you go down the board. This is the second sheet. So this is the next 20. Georgia Tech 75-1, well up from what they were before the Clemson upset. 100-1 on Illinois in there, ranked in the top 10 by the pollsters. They play Indiana this week. Vanderbilt and Missouri both ranked at 100-1 as well. I'm about to say something insane here. I think you can make a case that you can bet either Missouri or Vanderbilt at 100-1 right now. I think you can make that case because if you go 10-2 in the SEC, you're more likely than not making the college football playoff unless if we get a year where there's just a lot of high-end team. Like the ACC championship could be 12-0 Miami against 11-1 Florida State, or 11-1 Georgia Tech against 12-0 Miami with Georgia Tech's only loss coming to Georgia. Like there are a lot of paths where the ACC could be stealing bids this year because who knows? We have to see with Florida State. But they could be legitimately high-end. Miami's in both of our top 10s. They could be legitimately high-end. Here's the prop right now at the South Point, and the SEC's odds-on right now at -125. The Big Ten's +140. Back to the opener in the ACC, 6-1. The field is not worth the bet at this point. Notre Dame, I think Notre Dame needs to win out and get a bunch of help in order to get in at this point, and I understand that they've lost by a combined 4 points to 2 teams that we both have in our top 10. But it's just going to be really hard to overcome an 0-2 start to get in the playoff this year. And they also have to play USC. I think the ACC at 6-1 is worth a potential shot because Miami is a legitimate title contender. And then you're kind of banking on, all right, you know what? Either Florida State or Georgia Tech's getting in here. Georgia Tech's schedule is really easy, Alex, the rest of the way. They should be favored in every game going into that Georgia game with a real chance to go 11-0. And Florida State's got to crack a Miami in 2 weeks. So they also get Clemson. So we're going to really learn what Florida State, if that was just a one-off in that domination of Bama, or if they're a legitimate top team. We're both not buying them quite yet, though.
Just got to keep Haynes King healthy
for Georgia Tech,
the season for Georgia Tech. Let's go back. I don't think you're crazy. I want both of them, Missouri and Vanderbilt. 100-1, small piece on both of them. Just get a seat at the table, right? Like you're saying, if they can go 10-2, or we could see some chaos here with the SEC like we did last year. We don't know which 2 teams are going to make it into the SEC championship.
I 100% agree with you.
So that gives them a whole nother shot to make it into the playoffs there. I just think that's a pretty big number there that could be worth taking a piece of.
I will say I feel pretty good about Georgia getting to the SEC title game at this point. They just won.
You just mentioned all the home games.
Arguably your toughest road game. The remaining conference road games are Auburn and Mississippi State. Like, Bulldogs are a great story. Georgia will beat up on them. Auburn's a legitimately difficult game, as you'll realize with my power rankings in a few moments. That's another one at 50-1 that I think is pretty good. All right, Heisman Trophy odds here. And Alex, you know, I got to give Brandon Walker of Barstool credit here because he was the first one to make this point. We had just the wrong collection of quarterbacks at the top going into the year. And it was a lot of people. It was everybody. I mean, what? It was Klubnik and Arch and Sellers and Lagway and Nussmeier is really the only one who stayed at the top, even though it's pretty apparent, especially what Brian Kelly said yesterday. Nussmeier's not 100% healthy. He just isn't, but he's battling through it, and LSU is 3-0. But Sellers is 100-1 right now in the Heisman Trophy race. He's injured. The market's not expecting him to play this week in Missouri. That's why the number's as big as it is. Arch Manning's down at 40-1. He's only that short because of all the liability the books had pent up at the beginning of the year. Kate Klubnik's gone. And Clemson was gone from the futures board, basically, as well. And here you are now where your three Heisman favorites are John Mateer, who that was a lot of people's dark horse going into the year was Mateer.
Yeah.
I still want to see Mateer against an elite team. We'll see it against Auburn this week. If he plays well against them, I'll change my tune. Carson Beck's at 9-1 at DraftKings. Miami's looked as good as anyone through 3 weeks so far, and they get Florida this week. Dante Moore, Oregon's been dominant, 13-1. Makes sense. And then you have a whole collection of odds here. Jeremiah Smith, 14-1. Marcel Reese off the big win for A&M, 15-1. Gunnar Stockton off the big win against Tennessee, 15-1. I don't quite understand why Sayin and Aguilar are that short. I think it's going to be really hard for Tennessee to win more than 9 games this year. I don't think Aguilar has a chance unless if Tennessee wins out or goes 10-2 with a really tight loss to Bama mixed in there. And then Nussmeier's as high as 20-1. Alex, I think and I think you and I agree here. I know Carson Beck was available at big numbers during the summer, but we have different data points at this point, and I think Beck is the rightful favorite to be the Heisman Trophy winner right now. And you know what? It might be the shortest he is all year now. It's 9-1 the rest of the way.
I will say we did bring up Carson Beck.
We did. Sammy P did for sure.
And Sammy P as well. And I know he has a really good number. And I was even saying then, I still think that the one that's available is probably a good number. Now here we are at 9-1. But it is funny that's a great point that he did make, that we were hyping up the wrong guys. I mean, look at even Haynes King. He should be in the conversation in the way he's played. And Morton, we'll find out a lot about him against Utah this weekend. So that one makes me a little bit nervous. But yeah, I mean, Carson Beck looks the most like a pro of any of these college football players. He has the most experience. He's coming over from Georgia. So I think he's definitely live to win this award. I just want to get weird for a second here, Alex, where there were a few guys who didn't make the list. Just because we can only fit so much on the screen here that I think who are you thinking
are worthy of at least looks right now. Sawyer Robertson at Baylor. Baylor's offense is loaded. They have a huge game against Arizona State this weekend. It's kind of getting lost in the shuffle because neither team is ranked right now. But that is a gigantic game in the Big 12, coupled with that Utah-Texas Tech game that's coming up this week. He's 45-1 at DK. Bo Perbula, Missouri's quarterback. Tigers' offense has been tremendous through 3 weeks. They get South Carolina this week. If they get by, the Gamecocks as a bigger favorite than expected because of the injury to Sellers. Missouri's going to be undefeated going into the Alabama game. And then...
Wait, what's his number?
45.
Okay.
And then I'm going to do it. We mentioned Vanderbilt before. Diego Pavia has changed the culture of that program. That was as big of a loser program as there was in college athletics the last few years, other than the few years where James Franklin turned it around with Jordan Rodgers. Diego Pavia is still 60-1. I think that's insanity that he's that long. He is a game-changing player, and they should be undefeated going into their trip to Tuscaloosa. And if they beat Alabama for a second consecutive year, Pavia is going to be on the left side of this first screen here.
Yep.
So those are the three. Robertson, Perbula, and Pavia are the three long ones that I would take a look at. Also, I'll throw one out there as well, even though he hasn't played particularly great so far. If Nebraska beats Michigan this week, Dylan Raiola is going to be way shorter next week. He's 70-1 right now.
True. Very true. I mean, I just said I like both of them, the teams at 100-1, so I'm not going to argue with either of those quarterbacks. I don't know how much we can take from the two teams that Vandy just beat, because I would say, I mean, they just handled South Carolina, and now
Vodtek was a dead fish, as we obviously saw. Pry got fired on Sunday, and Sellers didn't play in the second half. But you know what? Vanderbilt was the better team while Sellers was in there, though. So
by far.
So I'll give them credit for that. Again, we'll learn. They're gonna win the next 2 weeks. We're gonna learn a lot about it when we get that Alabama showdown in Tuscaloosa. All right.
But to your point,
Alex.
if he keeps racking up the numbers that he is, that number's just going to keep dropping. So now is a good buy spot if you do think that he can keep this going.
100%. Those are the three.
And the same thing for Missouri, because I think that offense looks better than it has. And
it's funny. A lot of people, again, obviously well linked with Missouri people on my end. Ahmad Hardy's the guy who's getting pushed right now. He's 70-1. Hardy ran for over 200 yards last week against Louisiana Lafayette, I should say. Going to be a point Brett McMurphy made at Bet Bash this year, I think is right. It's going to be really hard after Travis Hunter won the Heisman a year ago for a non-quarterback to win the Heisman, unless if they're just so dominant. All right, power ranking time. Let's start with Chris Andrews. We have his updated rankings. I'll read them out for everybody. And Alex, you and him are simpatico at the top. Oregon, after their win against Northwestern, they didn't cover, but it was a weird one, right? Where they kind of sleptwalked through the first half. They ended up covering the first half. They were covering the game, and then they pulled their guys on defense. And credit to Northwestern for playing the string out. And they covered pretty easily, a 20-point win for the Ducks. Oregon's at number 1. Ohio State's at 2. Struggled for a little bit, but really put it on Ohio at the end. Their defense was spectacular yet again. Georgia's up to 3 for Chris Andrews. Alabama's up to 4 again as they just continue to move up the totem pole after 2 dominant performances against not as good competition as they saw week 1. LSU's number 5 for Chris. USC, Chris has talked about it, unbelievably high in the Trojans. Trojans aren't even ranked in the AP Top 25. Polls don't make prices. Vinny Magliulo's T-shirt that will eventually come out. But USC at 6 for Chris. Notre Dame at 7, even though they're 0-2. Miami at 8. Penn State at 9. And Utah still in the top 10 after what was, for some, an infuriating cover for the Utes last week where Whittingham just didn't run out the clock when he had a chance to.
Yes. So he's pretty tough on his favorite team that's in that list, and that's Penn State, and that's kind of my biggest difference from his.
You know, I'll just throw this out there, and look, Chris is a lot smarter than I am. I'm a little surprised that Miami's as low on his list as they are with how well they have played through 3 weeks. That's the only one. We knew how high USC was going to be. He's talked about it, and I know my look at Alabama is significantly better than your guys' look because you guys are going at it differently than I am.
So that one is funny because my dad still has Miami about there, if not just barely made the top 10, which I found pretty surprising too. And Notre Dame, I think he has him slotted right there in that 7th spot as well. So it's really just where they started and how many they're adjusting each week to get there, right? But we'll flash over to my top 10 now. Didn't realize we're already at 10:50. We still got to get some baseball picks in. But like you mentioned, number 1, Oregon. Now, this is just like a half a point, if that, between my number 1 and number 2, and that is Oregon and then Ohio State. Number 3, I do have Penn State. I know that they just played Villanova, but 52-6, I like starting to see that offense get going again here. They've given up just 17 total points in 3 games. Not the toughest of competitions, but we'll see what we get when they are finally seeing a big-time school like Oregon after their bye week. I will just say, too, with Oregon, you mentioned it, Northwestern, first road game. So still got it done, and that's what you like to see with your top 10 teams here. Georgia, number 4. Huge road win for them over a big-time school, an SEC school in Tennessee. 5 for 5 in the red zone for them for 26 points. Alabama, number 5. I keep talking about it, but I just like the turnaround. I like how they cleaned up a lot of the stuff we saw in the loss with Florida State. We know the talent has always been there, so have been bumping Alabama up with their bounce-back spots. And Wisconsin, I mean, I still think they have big guys. It's not a huge gap there, even though they are not playing well at all. Miami, Florida, number 6. I did move them up. 49-12 win over the top 25 slayer in South Florida, so very impressive there. Very complete team. We talk about that a lot. LSU win and cover at home against a desperate Florida team. Number 7 now for me. Number 8 is Texas, and they are dropping down. I am just not impressed with the Longhorns team. Very underwhelming against even a UTEP team last week. Oklahoma jumps into my top 10 for the first time. Really got my attention first against Michigan. And then everybody had them kind of not covering in that sleepy spot at Temple. And it was never a doubt, 42-3 win for them. Number 10 is Texas A&M, who have been knocking on the door to make my top 10. And now I think that was a huge win for Mike Elko's team over Notre Dame.
Yeah, no argument on A&M. Oklahoma was one I really – it was between them and the team I ended up putting at number 10 for number 10. And they actually play each other this week. So it'll be – and I already know how I'm betting that game. I can already tell you I'm going to be on their opponent. And there you go. There's the top 10 for me. By the way, Chris didn't have Texas is in his top 10. So the horns are completely out for Chris on his top 10. I kept my 1-2 in the same order. I know the Buckeyes sleepwalked for a little bit over a half plus against Ohio, but that defense is so good. That defense.
What they did to Ohio,
and look, Matt Patricia was a joke in the National Football League, but he ain't a joke in college football. And that defense, there are questions of how are they going to, again, Knowles is a great coordinator, went to Penn State. That defense looks every bit as good as it did a year ago. And when you have a guy like Caleb Downs, who is the best player in college football on that side of the ball, that defense is going to be hard to score on all year long. Ducks at 2, just dominant. I will tell you right now, I was very close to putting Georgia at number 1 just because, and I didn't because I didn't like how their defense played. But Gunnar Stockton answered every question I had about him this past week. He can throw. He can move. He has moxie. I hate that word, but he has it. And he played with confidence against a legitimate top 25 team in one of the most difficult environments in college football. And they came from behind and won the game. That showed me a lot. And Georgia, look, even though they play a lot of good teams, as I mentioned before, they really only have one tough road game left. And the Georgia Tech game is being played at Mercedes-Benz Stadium as opposed to Bobby Dodd, which is a big up for Georgia. They're at 3. LSU, I have my concerns about Nussmeier's health, but they've been as good as anyone, and their defense is as good as anyone as well. They're number 4. I was very close to vaulting Miami over them, though. The Notre Dame win, Miami was clearly the better team in that game, and that game got close because Cristobal started the Cristobal. That's my only concern with them. There is no question on the talent. Beck looks like the guy we thought he was going to be at Georgia last year. That defense has, Bain is the second best defensive player in the country behind Downs. They are loaded with talent. They're at 5. I keep moving Penn State down, but they're down. They started at number 1. They're down to 6. This will all change if they beat Oregon in 2 weeks, but they're down to 6. They haven't covered a game yet against unimpressive opponents, even though Villanova's cover was miraculous with that one to catch in the back of the end zone. Texas A&M moves up to 7. We're going to learn more about the Aggies moving forward. That was a great win at Notre Dame, but the refs throwing a flag on it, holding away from losing that game. So, but A&M moves up from 10 to 7. Texas is down to 8. I very much contemplated moving them out, but I still think they have a ton of talent, and Arch Manning can't be this bad, right? Like, he can't be this bad. And Sark has really coached the 3 poor games as well. So they're still too talented to move out of the top 10. Utes, huge game this week against Texas Tech. We're going to learn a ton about both of those teams. I put them at 9 because they've been dominant through 3 weeks. They had a sluggish start against Wyoming, but they destroyed the Cowboys in the second half in Laramie on Saturday night. And then I had Auburn 10, Oklahoma 11, Missouri 12, Alabama 13. And I have Vanderbilt 14. I'm way higher on them than everybody else seems to be. I'm willing to move them up that high. So it's a lot of SEC flair, and I put Auburn at 10. You know what? That Baylor win is not getting respected enough in my books. They went on the road against a team that I think has a chance to win the Big 12, and they inflicted their will on Baylor. And I think Auburn's going to Norman and getting revenge for that ridiculous game last year. And Jackson Arnold gets revenge on his former program. I like Auburn outright as a 6.5-point dog, and I have them rated higher than Oklahoma. So I have the Tigers of Auburn at number 10 for me now.
What about Utah this weekend? I like the home team.
I like Utah. I think that's a great spot for them. The only thing that's funky is that's an early start. It's a 10 a.m. start local time in Salt Lake. But that is a great environment. Texas Tech has played a lot of garbage to begin the year. Now, granted, Utah has as well because UCLA is much worse than we thought they were going to be.
Right.
But that was a tricky spot going up to Laramie.
Yes.
And they were sluggish. It was 3-0 at halftime, even though they were averaging almost 7 yards a play. But they destroyed Wyoming in the second half. That second half was not competitive. So credit to
I feel bad for people who actually did have the points there.
Yeah, that was a right side loser with Wyoming for sure last week against Utah.
I'm just going to check the lines right now just to see if those have moved yet with Utah because they are. Oh, it's right there at 3.
I would lay it. I
think it looks like it is going that way. Open 4, drop back down to 3, but now we're seeing some 3.5.
Texas Tech very, very highly power rated by a lot of people just because of their dominance so far, and there's no arguing the talent with them. They have a ton of talent.
Yeah.
I just want to see it against a real team, and you're going on the road too for your first true test of the year. All right, we're going to take a quick break. There's a lot of football here today. We get back. We'll quick hit baseball. We'll get our whiteboards, and we'll say bon voyage on a Tuesday here on Sports by the Book.
Heading to Las Vegas to catch the action at Allegiant Stadium? Skip the traffic and the sky-high room rates of the Strip. Book your stay at the South Point Hotel, Casino, and Spa. The South Point is located just 7 miles away from the stadium, and it's a quick trip up the freeway, making it an affordable rideshare or taxi ride. And don't worry about getting here when you land in Vegas. We offer a convenient airport shuttle to get your getaway off to a stress-free start. Shuttles are also available on Raider game days for a small fee. So whether you're rooting for your team or seeing your favorite band in concert at Allegiant Stadium, South Point Hotel, Casino, and Spa is your ticket to all the excitement.
Welcome back in Sports by the Book, South Point Studio. Jeff Parles, Alex White. Quick hitters in baseball coming right now, and let's begin in Pittsburgh. What a pitching matchup tonight. The likely Cy Young Award winner in Paul Skenes will be on the bump here today against the likely NL Rookie of the Year on the bump today for them with Cade Horton. 6.5, Alex White.
Woo.
With a low total, -130 on the Buccos here.
I actually, if you made me pick a side, I'd probably take that plus price there with the Cubs. I was impressed with their 4-0 win yesterday. I thought that was the right side, Tayon versus Ashcraft. But I do like the under, and I know it's a little terrifying, but I'm going under 3 for the first 5. I think Horton will go toe-to-toe with Paul Skenes, and Paul Skenes has just been ridiculous, and especially at home. I mean, he blanked the Dodgers his last home start, so I think he'll be ready to go in this one against the Cubbies, and I think Cade Horton can pitch well against the Pirates offense as well.
Again, Cubs totally in command of the number 1 wild card. They're not. The Brewers will have the division wrapped up more likely than not by the weekend or the beginning of next week. But the Cubs, again, they're going to have home field more likely than not against the Padres in the NL wild card series. So again, they're still in good shape, all things considered, for the Cubs. All right, let's go. Game 2 in Washington, quick hit here, Alex. Game 1's already underway. It's Sale and Gore. Sale's a huge favorite here. We're pushing $1.80 with the Braves, +160 on the Nats, total 7.
I think $1.80 is the correct price here. No real value. You're not getting the Braves for cheap with Mackenzie Gore on the other side. So I'm going to pass on that one.
We go to New York next. The Mets and the Padres, the 5 and the 6 seed in the National League. The Mets trying to hold off a collection of 3 teams now for that final wild card slot. And somehow the Arizona Diamondbacks are now the closest team to the Mets because, of course, they are. 1.5 games ahead of Arizona with the tiebreaker. 2 games ahead of Cincinnati without the tiebreaker for the Mets, and 2 games ahead of San Francisco with the tiebreaker. All right, do you follow all that? There you go. Mets today will go throw Clay Holmes against Michael King. I'm a little surprised at this pricing. -120 on New York, +105 on the Padres here in this one.
Wrong team favored.
At bare minimum, it should be a flip here.
I think that there's some value there getting that plus price with the Padres because it's Michael King. And I know we've only seen him once this month coming back from 2 different injuries. But, I mean, he did pitch well, 5 innings, 2 earned runs in that one. We're going to see a piggyback with Clay Holmes and then Sean Manaea coming in. So that will be interesting. I am curious to see how that works out for them because both of those guys weren't really going deep into games.
Oh, Manaea had been, until the last 3 innings of his start against Philadelphia, I mean, basically unpitchable the last 3 weeks. Holmes, as well documented, just can't really go more than 4 or 5 innings. So be interesting. Again, the Mets are trying anything, just trying to hold on to that final wild card slot. Again, the Phillies have wrapped up the National League East, which we'll get to in a few moments.
I have a few futures going for the World Series for the futures here, but Mets at 10-1 to win the pennant is kind of interesting.
Oh,
You're
boy.
still getting double digits as the only team you can. And another, kind of like we were talking about with the playoffs, just get in and they could be live. I guess it's just a matter of the pitching.
Yeah, if they have to play the Dodgers, which is likely in that wild card series, I just hate that matchup so much for them. But hey, look, baseball playoffs, anything can happen, as we know.
Yeah.
Again, the 6 seeds made the NLCS all 3 times in this format.
Yeah.
In the National League, Dodgers still your betting favorites, along with Milwaukee now here at the South Point at 2-1. Phillies +275, +350 on San Diego.
Yeah, see, because 8-1 here for Chris Andrews and company, but I did see at least a 10-1 out there.
Let's go to St. Louis next. Reds got a win against the Cardinals yesterday. Huge pitching advantage with Andrew Abbott, who's a -120 favorite today, +105 on St. Louis with McGreevy in a total of 8.
Nothing really for me in this one. I think all those numbers are just right. Should have jumped in on the Reds yesterday because that was the play, but pass for me today with these 2 going.
Marlins and Rockies. Whoa, what a game this is. 41 and 109 for Colorado. Very low total with Freeland and Perez at 10, which seems awfully, awfully low here.
Yeah, I got nothing, really. I mean, if you wanted to make a case for the over, I definitely couldn't argue with you, especially with Freeland at home. I mean, just a 4.4 ERA at home since July. So nothing for me. There's his on the year, though, right there, 4.97.
Let's go to Arizona next, Alex. This is, again, big series. Diamondbacks are the ones closest to the Mets right now because, of course, they are. And they have a good pitching advantage again tonight with Eduardo Rodriguez against Beck on the other side. For the Giants, Arizona's -125, total of 9. D-backs took full advantage of the pitching advantage yesterday against the Giants.
Yes, they did, and I should have had it on my board. It was the only home team that I did like, and they did get there. I think this is a very good price once again with Eduardo Rodriguez. He is going to, or he has the potential to give some up. His median number on the year is going 5 1/3 and giving up 3 earned runs. So you could expect that, but I mean, this is one of the better lineups, and they've remained hot. So I think the Diamondbacks is the right side there.
All right, up next, Alex, let's go to L.A. Christopher Sanchez is going to start for the Phillies, but this is always the fun post-division clinching game for the Phillies, who won in dramatic fashion and clinched the NL East last night. Shohei goes for the Dodgers. I mean, I understand it's Sanchez. I understand people look at it as like, I'm getting +120 with Christopher Sanchez. Guys, don't do it. Don't do it. The Phillies could run out a totally obscene lineup here today, a day after clinching the division. But if they run out a regular lineup, then you could consider it. But you have to look at the lineup for Philly here tonight.
Definitely. And I would just stay away. Like you said, kind of dramatic fashion, extra innings. They're was it the 10th or 11th where bases were loaded, but struck out Max Muncy to get the win there.
Yeah, bottom 10.
Bottom 10. So I'm definite stay away from me.
All right, to the American League side of things, Detroit, Cleveland. It's technically only 6.5 in the American League Central, even though, again, it would take something totally insane for that to happen at this point. I don't know how Cleveland is 78 and 71. I mean, I think they're truly terrible, but here they are. almost as close as Texas to Houston in that AL wildcard chase. Cantillo against Casey Mize, -35 on Detroit, total of 8 at Comerica, Alex.
I don't like that Cleveland does have so many lefties in that lineup. And Casey Mize has had a few struggling starts this year, but I think that's a pretty cheap price with the Tigers at home here. And I think Casey Mize can pitch well in this one. And plus, Cantillo doesn't even go deep into games. So, yeah, it's a Tigers for me, -135.
Really, the biggest thing for Detroit at this point is keep the 2 seed. They're more likely than not going to catch Toronto 3 back with 12 to go without the tiebreaker. More likely than not, that race is it's possible, but highly unlikely. Just hold that 3-game lead over the AL West leader, which is Seattle at the moment. If you do that, you get the bye. Big advantage for Detroit being able to get their rotation in the correct order with Skubal, guaranteed 2 starts in that scenario if they get the bye. Boston, A's. We saw this series last week. Up next, Con Early, who was awesome in his major league debut against the A's, sees the same team in his second career start. -150. Jeffrey Springs on the other side for the Athletics at +135.
Well, so that point right there makes me a little bit worried for Conley Early and in this one with the Athletics seeing him back-to-back, and they just got hot in Sacramento. So I think this is an ace spot. I think that's a pretty good price as long as you're getting even money or better, which, +125 for the first 5. Yeah, I think this is definitely Athletics +135. If there's value there, I think this should be a pick 'em at the bare minimum because Jeffrey Springs has been pretty good this year. So.
I'm echoing everything you just said with Early. Like, it's just so bizarre. Same team twice in your first 2 starts. You just don't see that very often. Wonder how he handles it, even though, boy, they could not hit him when they saw him last week. All right, let's go to Tampa. Ryan Pepio and Jose Barrios. Jays are in complete command everywhere. 5-game lead over the Yankees after the Yankees lost to the Twins. That's 2 straight losses against the Twins for the Yankees. Now, we'll get to them in a second. And they have a 3-game lead on Detroit with the tiebreaker for the number 1 seed. It sure looks like the AL playoffs are going to go through Canada this year. Yep. I'm a little bit surprised with this pricing here. I thought Toronto should have been a small favorite with Barrios against Pepio in this one. So Rays small favorite at -110.
As I was diving into it, Pepio has been really good at home. So looking at his ERA since July, a 2.86, sub-1 whip, just a 0.82. So I think that has been built into this. And I actually don't think they priced it enough. I think the Rays could be a bigger favorite with Pepio at home. So it's a lean to the Rays for me.
Let's go to Kansas City next. Mariners lead the Astros by a half game. Again, this is a gigantic leak for Seattle where they're in KC, then they go to Houston for 3. So the AL West could legitimately be won or lost this week in Houston. Again, those teams are 5-5 against each other, so keep that in mind when the Astros and Mariners play this weekend. Waka and Gilbert. Gilbert's -135, total of 8 in Middle America for this one.
What do you think about an over?
No problem with that, Alex White.
We've been talking about Logan Gilbert just being much better at home than he is on the road. And, I mean, he's got a 5 ERA on the road since July. So I think that the Royals could put a few runs up, and I think the Mariners could as well. So over 8 for me, full game.
Let's go to Chicago next. I got to give the Orioles their due here. They had been awesome in the months of September. It was just too little too late for Baltimore. Covered the run line, got there pretty easily last night when we talked about that, Alex. Yep. And I'm a little bit floored by this pricing as well, with Smith a small favorite against Kramer tonight, -110 on the White Sox. Wrong team favorite here in this one for me, Alex.
It would only be the Orioles for me as well. Just going to see if we could make a case for the under here. Both of them kind of struggling offensively right now in the last week, but 8's just about right here with the number. But I'm with you. It would be Orioles or pass.
Up next, let's go to Minnesota. How about Simeon Woods Richardson last night? Absolutely dominant.
I forgot they were coming off the Red Sox series.
Yeah. But, I mean, the Yankees had owned Minnesota forever. But 2 straight wins against the Yankees for the Twins. We're going to applaud the Twins for that. Schiller and Matthews, your pitching matchup here tonight. Cam's a -160 and a total of 9 for this one, Alex.
I mean, I think that's really cheap on the Yankees once again. I brought up the other young pitcher yesterday, and now I think we've got another really good one here, Cam Schittler. So I think that's the right side. Yankees, they were shut out last night, if I'm not mistaken, 7-0. Yes. So bounce back spot for New York here. Or I could make a case for over 9 as well, especially if we could get some runs from the Twins side. But I like Yankees more.
Now for the biggest game of the day in the American League, the Astros and the Rangers. Houston takes game 1 last night, extends their lead over Texas to 3 for the final wild card. The other news out of last night is Yordan Alvarez hurt himself scoring a run, which is big news to monitor moving forward for Houston. This is almost your season for Texas here, because if you lose, you're 4 out, and even if you win, you're 3 out with 9 to go, and it just makes it unbelievably difficult without the Mariners sweeping the Astros for you over the weekend. But they do have a big pitching advantage here, because it's Merrill Kelly today against Blaubau. On the Astros side, minus 120 on Texas with a total of 8 in this one.
And AJ blah blah won't go very deep into these games, so I am with you. I think there's a big pitching advantage. I'm not going to jump in anymore because I do already have my Rangers future ticket, but I think that's the right set. I think that's a good price, minus 120. I think they should be $1.50 on the road here against the Astros with Merrill Kelly on the bump.
Last one. Milwaukee's a huge favorite against the Angels, which is for some reason listed as an American League game today, which is fun.
That's
about 35 years ago it would have been before the Brewers swapped leagues. Freddie Peralta is a big favorite. No shock here. Minus 260 on this one, Alex.
Sidewise, I think that's just right. I think the Brewers should be that big of a favorite. I know that the Angels have been feisty, but if anything, I'd go under 8.5. I think that's just a little bit too high with Peralta on the bump. The big question mark, of course, is the other side with Caden Dana. 3 good starts, one of them a little iffy against the Twins, but really just 5 earned runs on 5 hits. But it was a walking issue with 5 walks as well. So makes me a little bit nervous there, where we know the Brewers can put up big numbers, but lean to the under.
There you go. There's the baseball card. We did a lot here on the show today, a lot of college football, a lot of NFL, and baseball here to wrap up Tuesday. But before we go, as always, we'll have the whiteboard in a moment. But first, start with the poll here today is who's the most likely recipient of the NL Cy Young. It's Paul Skenes at 63%, and actually that is below what the market odds are currently on what Paul Skenes is to win the award. Peralta and Sanchez were the other one. The 3 betting favorites actually all in action here today. Yeah. But again, Skenes has been a huge favorite for a while, minus 20,000. It would be an all-time stunner if Skenes did not win it at this point, especially after Zach Wheeler was lost for the year with his blood clot in his right shoulder. All right, now time for trivia. Ticker trivia presented by City Lights Shine. I'll have to grab the bottle in a moment to show everyone the special Joey Logano edition that is available potentially along with the slot promotion going into South Point here for the month of September. We're going way back. Oh, my goodness, Vince. We're going way back in the time machine here today. On this date in 1869, Alex White, long time ago, almost 200 years ago now, one of the very first hole-in-ones was recorded in golf major history, and it was hit by Tom Morris at the Open Championship at Prestwick in Scotland. Who is the most recent player to hit a hole-in-one at the Open Championship, which happened this year at Royal Portrush in Northern Ireland? It was John Perry. No, not the former ref, but the golfer himself with a hole-in-one. He aced the 13th in the 3rd round of the year. It was Perry's 12th time in the tournament, 38th time in the overall major. With the total number of aces at the Open Championship, they cannot be officially confirmed. It's estimated there have been around 50 in the tournament's history since 1860. I'm surprised that was small actually. But again, links course is a little bit harder to ace than courses here in the United States. All right.
I am ready. I just need one more line.
$1.35, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, for Detroit.
42, I think.
Yeah, you're gonna
40.
40. Okay, we'll call it 40 here today. But Alex will have her whiteboard Well, we're looking to bounce back after at least I will be here on a Tuesday after the Raiders did not get in the back door a night ago.
Well, luckily, I had 2 money line dogs and went 1-1, and then 2 spread dogs split as well. But yeah, sometimes those dogs can help you out. Okay, let's go. I got 3 today. I did take the Diamondbacks off, which I hope I don't regret later. But Cubs and Pirates under 3, first 5. Horton versus Skenes. Tigers minus 142 with Casey Mize on the bump at home for Detroit. And then Mariners and Royals over 8. Need a lot of runs in that one in Kansas City.
Big day in Houston. That's the game I'm looking for with Merrill Kelly to pitch a gem for the Rangers. But again, if the Rangers lose, it's close to lights out. It's pretty much close to lights out for everybody. If the Astros win today and Cleveland and Texas lose, we're playing for who's winning, who gets home field in that first round between Seattle and Houston more so than anything. Where again, Astros could still catch Boston, but see how it all plays out as we get through the final 12 games for everybody in Major League Baseball. All right, we had a long one today, but we're back tomorrow. Our friend Bruce Marshall will join the show, give his best plays of the week across football tomorrow morning on the show at 10:30 a.m. Pacific. You and I will have our NFL power rankings to open the show tomorrow, and also, of course, a full baseball card as well. She's Alex White. I'm Jeff Parles. Shout out to the crew, Ryan, Jerry, Vince, and Drew Dog, and Sean. Great job as always. I'm Jeff Parles. She's Alex White. We'll see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. right here, Sports by the Book, South Point Studio, live at the South Point Hotel and Casino.